Hey, Pastor John Perminsky here from Restore Church. Just want to welcome you to our podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the ministry for 30, going on 31 years, 27, almost 28 of those as the lead and founding pastor here at Restored Church. And I just want you to prayerfully consider supporting the ministry here at Restored Church. It can be a one-time gift or a recurring gift. Just want to encourage you to do that. And welcome to our podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and here is today's message. Hey, welcome to our Restore podcast. We have Gina Johnsen, our state representative, here today. Gina, welcome.
Thank you.
Love talking to you. I met you because a friend that we have in common, David Christian, pretty much demanded that I meet you. He said, I really want you to meet Gina Johnsen. She's running for state rep. I go, David, I don't want to be involved. And he goes, I really want you to meet her. The reason why David has such influence with me is because 28 years ago, he helped us start this church.
Mm.
And so I've known him for a long time, and he's a very dear friend. And so that day at the coffee shop, I just thought, I'm gonna survive this, and I'm gonna then, go home. And I'll be honest, Gina, I've always been skeptical of politicians that say that they're believers.
Yeah.
I struggle believing that they're believers. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, of course she's a believer. She needs the backing of the church. She needs the conservative vote. And so I, being honest, I was skeptical. And what won me over was that you were a woman of prayer. In fact, my own mother-in-law didn't even know that you were a politician. She knew you from the prayer meetings, the Western Michigan prayer gatherings that she had seen you at. I know her. And my mother-in-law is a woman of prayer. And so take me on kind of a journey. How did Gina Johnsen get here? How, why? All the questions that I could ask you. I mean, how did you come to know the Lord? You were doing very well in the business world, and then you left it for politics. Why would you do something crazy, like that?
Yeah. Why? Well, first of all, I think it's appropriate that you're skeptical. I think it's appropriate that all pastors, leaders, business people, parents, I don't care who you are, you got to be careful when it comes to the entertainment world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That wants to make money off of being liked, appreciated, or including pastors on TV, televangelists. We've got stories with that. But the political government, or wherever there's power or money, we got to be careful.
So you're not afraid of skepticism?
No, I embrace it, and I think it's healthy.
Okay.
It's healthy. And I welcome the challenges. Someone says, prove to me this. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're asking the right questions
Sure.
because you're going to get snowed a lot. You're going to get very disappointed if you're not careful.
How can the average Christian out there, how can they know if a politician isn't just garnering votes, if they're really and genuinely a believer?
Well, the real test is to know the Holy Spirit and get discernment from the Holy Spirit. But a simpler answer might be, your mother-in-law knew me in the prayer world because I was already in it.
Right.
I didn't decide to run for politics, political government, elections, and then join a church.
Right.
And then go into a prayer movement, which I'm sorry, I love the prayer world because unlike Sunday church, it's not built for fakers. You got to be hardcore into prayer and a relationship with God and respect for this unseen things that you do behind closed doors that most people think do nothing. It's a big waste of time. I mean, prayer is so misunderstood that if you love to pray, you have to truly be a believer at the very least.
I can't imagine going to these prayer meetings. Western Michigan prayer, those are like regional prayer meetings. I can't imagine going there, toughing that out, all because I'm trying to win some people over. Why would I do that? Wouldn't you think your time would be better spent elsewhere, going door to door or business to business? Or so in those moments of prayer, I'm assuming you felt like God spoke to you.
Well, let me go way back.
Okay. Love it.
I was raised in a home with parents who were politically active, and yet nobody ever ran for office. Okay. My father was a Christian lawyer, politically active, and always teaching. Hear what they just said on the TV? That's going on. What really happened was this. That's deceptive.
Oh, wow.
They gave you 1/10 of what really happened. This is what's really going on. This is why we're active. This is why I go to these meetings to have influence and to figure out what's really going on. And he'd say to me, you always want to be at least somewhat politically connected or you won't know what's going on. And you'll get deceived.
Why did he? And I'm sure your dad didn't think that you would aspire to run for public office. Why would he encourage you as a business person to stay politically connected? I think one of the hardest groups to get involved politically are pastors, because they don't understand church and state, and they haven't looked into that. They don't understand why Thomas Jefferson even made that statement in the first. It was to Baptist ministers that he even said that in the first place.
Right.
So why would your dad want you to be politically connected? Why wouldn't he tell you, Gina, just work really hard, be the best leader that you can be a person of integrity? Why would he encourage? Why did he feel like you needed to know what was going on?
Number one, you don't vote intelligently if you don't know what's going on. I grew up in a home where it was mandatory. You vote.
Yeah.
And you vote biblically. But as a lawyer, he was able to dissect a lot of governmental processes. He worked for the state of Michigan for 29 years.
Wow.
He started out a Democrat, became a Republican.
Oh.
So did my mom.
Wow.
There was discussion. There was always discussion and learning about what does it mean to be a Christian in the world. And a Christian in the world means you take care of the poor, the orphans and the widows. Yeah. You take care of real criminal justice.
Yeah. God
thought of criminal justice, not a political movement.
Yeah.
And the government has, he'd open the Bible and go, these are the laws God said the way it should happen. Do you know why we have our laws in America, Gina? And I'm like little 8-9-year-old.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Do you know why we have our laws in America? It's because it came from the Old Testament. And he's a lawyer, so he knows laws.
Yeah.
And when we don't do it God's way, we have bad laws.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you need 2 witnesses.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you don't slander. We do legislate morality. It's all in the Bible.
Yeah.
God commanded the government, the family, the church.
Yeah.
So I learned all that when I was a kid. And so I had this mindset that this is really important. And yet it was always church and government, church and government, church and government. So this is going to crack you up. I thought when I grow up, I'm going to marry a senator or a pastor, and I'll be supporting whatever that is.
Yeah.
So my heart was already in it. Wow. But then life took its direction.
Yeah.
I married a doctor,
Okay.
And I remember thinking, I hate the healthcare field.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, blood and guts, gore.
Yep.
So much responsibility. He became a surgeon. Yeah, he caught the wrong thing. The person dies or they're maimed or they're paralyzed or just enormous responsibility. And I never really felt like I'm called to healthcare. What has been the biggest part of my business background? It's healthcare.
Wow.
So, I mean, Lord will twist everything up, one side down the other, and for a million reasons. And I never intended on running for office. I intended on getting married, being a wife, a mother, and then that kind of got pulled out from under me too.
Sure.
With our daughter was 3 and my husband left. My Christian doctor husband left and said, I don't be married anymore. Okay, God, I have to go to work, figure out the business world. And I figured, well, he helped me figure it out. He, moved me around in healthcare. And I'm thinking, I don't even want any part of the doctoral. I watched him go through med school.
Yeah.
I called his residency a hazing, some kind of a sick hazing that the medical establishment puts on these young men and women.
Yeah.
Not healthy. Violated all sorts of labor laws. But they get away with it because they got their own thing going on.
Yeah.
For good or for bad.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want to go back into this. I became a pharmaceutical rep and then program manager for a big pharma, which is like an evil phrase now. It wasn't back then.
Right.
Now I'm a health insurance agent more recently, and
Yeah.
I've kept up my license and all that and my current client list. And I really didn't want to take an enormous pay cut to go into a field where you're guaranteed to be beaten up
Oh, yeah.
and chewed up and spit out, and and the big enemy tries to destroy everybody in that one. And then furthermore, I raised my daughter up with respect for the arts and how impactful the arts are. And we need to pray for entertainment because it's actually more impactful than government.
Sure.
And what
As
happens?
we've seen, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even podcasts.
Yeah.
This is a part of the entertainment world now
Yeah.
that everybody realizes is a great way to communicate.
Well, I had no idea how influential podcasts were. My staff, they kind of were educating me, and I go, wait a minute, this younger generation watches podcasts all the time, like more than television. Oh yeah, Pastor John, Joe Rogan's podcasts are like 3 hours long, and I'm like,
imagine.
I'm like, what? And he goes, the beauty of a podcast is you can start, you can stop, you can. And I said, oh wow. And so Trump was wise to go on Joe Rogan, and it was Barron, his son, that told him to. I love that. What an influence. I see Barron ended up, following in his father's footsteps. But so you didn't want to do this, but God clearly carved a niche for you, and you gained tremendous momentum in a short period of time. I would, just say to my wife, I'd say, Lisa, how much does that woman sleep? Does she sleep? She seems to be everywhere. She seems to be everywhere. And if there's not a calling to do that, then, why are we doing it? And so much like when I spoke with Rafael Cruz about his son, Ted, he said he was making a lot more money out as a lawyer. He said he feels called to do this.
Right.
And much the same with you. You feel called to do this. And it's like jumping in a shark tank.
It sure is.
And yet you feel called to do this. But if Christians don't step up, then who's gonna? So what are some of the biggest challenges you see in government today? I think some of the deception, the mask is being ripped off, and obviously that's our newly appointed president's, agenda. He comes in as an outsider, political outsider. He's like a businessman, like you're a businesswoman. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges? I just want the truth. I just want to know the truth. And I don't know if I'm always being told the truth.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
what would you say are some of the things that, we're dealing with today that are big issues?
The biggest challenge I see is if the church does not experience revival in America, Michigan, America, there's no real long-term hope. Because as government elected officials or those that are not elected, 18 departments in Michigan are run by non-elected department heads.
Wow.
Appointed by the governor.
Okay.
Whether you're elected or not, in your leading spheres of the government, if the church cannot hold the good policies, the good legislation, the good character, the good culture, we got nothing.
Yeah.
You can legislate all the best things in the world, and the culture is still falling apart.
Yeah.
When we have suicide rates that are high amongst youth, depression, anxiety, like we have never, ever seen it in the entire globe, in the history of mankind that we know of, like we have with our youth today in America, we got problems.
Yeah.
And really, the church is the only one that has the answer. But really, the breakdown of the family has been incentivized to be broken by a legislative governmental system that incentivizes not marriage, not having more children, not being well connected as a community.
Yeah.
We call it Marxism sometimes, but it's whatever. It's not biblical thinking.
Right.
A typical Marxist ideology, a model for living is mother and father both work. Who cares if they're married or not? Children are the government's responsibility from a few weeks old on. Government daycare. We have a lot of talk about childcare. Why don't we talk about building the family up so we don't need childcare everywhere we turn?
Yep.
Oh, because we need everyone working. Do we need everyone working? A high tax rate might dictate that you need everyone working.
Sure.
High inflation, welfare policies that you only get the welfare if it's one parent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not incentivizing what we say is healthy.
Right.
So no wonder we've got kids falling apart.
Yep.
Because the families are not stable.
Yep.
And if the families are not stable, the community is not stable, and the church gets the fallout if they even attend church anymore.
Man, I grew up in a home where my mom never worked. My mom didn't have a driver's license. We had 7 kids. Mm-hmm. My dad worked very hard, and we lived modestly, but we were well taken care of. We were well clothed and fed. And that was kind of like the model that I grew up with. And now there are so many government benefits that you can live off the government. You could be completely healthy and capable of working, and you can live off the government. You can get this support and that support when you really wouldn't need it. But the state of our economy kind of pushes that to where parents don't have a choice. Rent is high, and so hopefully we'll see interest rates come back down. Hopefully we'll see employment go back up. I heard it said this way, and I love what you said about the church. I heard it said that the church isn't an organization or an institution. By God's design, it's a family, and it was always meant to be. And as a family, we need, as a church, to extend our hands, and we need to communicate to our communities that we are here and we're here to help. And we do have answers, and it's in the person of Jesus Christ. We can offer help. And you can choose to accept that help or not. I feel like the church, if it's doing its part, that community is grateful for that church being there. It knows the church. It's grateful for the church being there. And we're not a bunch of plastic people living behind, walls that nobody gets to ever see behind. That's why when we built our new building, we had all windows on the front, because we're not trying to hide who we are.
Right.
We want to communicate. Here we are. We're not hiding, and I think the church needs to come out from hiding. I think it's no surprise that Dietrich Bonhoeffer's movie, A Story About His Life, is so popular. There is a guy that gave his life to fight a demonic agenda, and what an inspiration he is. And I love his quote, when God calls a man, he bids him come and die. So I feel like whatever you're called to do, there should be like a dying in it. Like, I would prefer to do this, but I feel God's calling me to do this, so I will die to that.
Yeah.
I think that's why many are called and few are chosen. And so you probably could have been sitting a lot better with a lot less stress if you would have stayed in the business sector and left politics alone. But it's almost like you picked a fight. And
that's it's well put. The other part of it, though, too, is that I was able to financially support more candidates of my choosing when I had more income.
Yep.
You cut the income in half and then rely on it for your own campaigning.
Yeah.
And I said to God, this is what I said. I trust myself to be generous and give.
Yeah.
And I know how to sacrificially give.
Sure.
And so do many other people.
Yeah.
But I'll do it. But I'm having a really hard time trusting you to motivate your people to be generous when I'm needed.
Yeah.
And so I've had the challenge. I need the money now. Well, I don't know. And I've gotten tougher and tougher and more forthright. Like, look, this is what's on the line.
Yeah.
You got to hand it over to me or somebody else you trust.
Yeah.
So this doesn't get done.
Right.
Unless you got a better plan. I don't know how to get this done.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm running a house of prayer downtown. And this is the 15th year.
That's wild.
So God's really running his own house of prayer.
Yeah.
Because funding, I don't know how funding comes in for that, and campaigns and my own little life. But he does it.
Yep.
And if I can trim myself and remind myself, trim myself down back to, magnify the Lord.
Yeah.
He's big. And I obey one day at a time.
Yep.
He will supply, and he has. Nothing's closed down. I've not missed a meal because there wasn't money.
Yeah.
I have roof over my head. I have plenty of clothing.
Yep.
I mean, what's the problem?
Yep.
And there's more than enough resources in America to do whatever we're supposed to do. But the communication is the key, which is we got to get the church communicating again.
Yeah, we do.
And the flock won't they won't be sharks against me.
Right.
They won't be sharks even against their own pastor you got political. The sheep should not be eating up their pastor for being political.
Right.
And they won't be so confused as to which way do I turn? It looks like the Democrats are more compassionate and the Republicans are just ruthless about money.
Yeah.
How many times have I heard that come out of a church sort of setting?
Yeah.
That is not honest. It's total deception.
Yeah.
And to turn that around, it takes some time.
Yeah.
Pastors are good at communicating.
Yeah.
And I encourage you already know that, but I encourage many, many other pastors, connect the dots for your sheep.
Yeah.
They're not able to do it all on their own.
No, and they're sheep. And so lead them.
Right.
And I love the fact that if you don't know, the house of prayer that Gina's talking about is right across from the state capitol. I can't think of a more strategic location than right across from there. And I love that even the day that I was there, that politicians popped in and we didn't know that this was here. I'm like, are you kidding me? So for me, it's always about word getting out. It's how I met you. It's how I feel pushed more and more to use the influence that God's given me to make a difference in the community. I think pastors have felt like their only responsibility is to the congregation, to equip the congregation. But what about everything that's happening outside of the church walls? The majority of Jesus's ministry was outside of the synagogue. And so I just told our congregation, if we're not equipping in here and evangelizing out there, then what are we doing? Well, you have to sometime earn the privilege of evangelizing people. And I don't know if I told you this, but I was able to reconnect with a pastor in Lansing when I came to Pastor Brent. When I said, I don't know if you remember me, but you prayed for me when I was a youth pastor in Grand Haven some 30 years ago. And you laid hands on me, and I was out for a while, and God spoke to my heart. And John, let's stay connected. And it was just, I couldn't believe when I saw him. I'm thinking, I have not seen you in 30 years. And it seems like, not everybody is as young and bold as your pastor. But it seems like as pastors are getting older, they kind of are throwing off, the fetters and the inhibitions, and what, this is important, and we need to get involved. And I always kind of felt like later in my ministry, after I'd been around for a while, that I would get more involved in the community and getting to meet people like you. And it seems like doors have begun to open for me. And so I'm not afraid to say things from the pulpit that I once was. It's a credit to you, Gina, your heart, your prayers. You don't solicit money. You don't ask for money. You ask for involvement. You ask for prayer. And I think that should come, second nature. And so I appreciate all that you do. Looking into the distance, if we could, I think we might have a reprieve for the next 4 years, because of newly elected Trump and Vice President Vance. How should the church solidify its influence? What can we do to stay plugged in, to stay involved? Because I've told our congregation, don't stop praying now. Right. Don't stop praying now. Please, prayer meetings aren't attended like they once were. When I know a church that has a real solid prayer gathering, I'm thinking, good for you. My goodness, that's awesome. So how can the church stay plugged in? I didn't even know I could go from the pulpit. I can declare who I'm voting for. I just can't tell the congregation who they should vote for. I can say who I am. I can lead that way. Mm-hmm. But years ago, you'd have been, you can't do that. Yes, I can. And because of godly lawyers like the Colemans and, so how can pastors educate their people? I think we should be doing public hall meetings in the church more.
Yes. Well, the church was the public square before.
In the beginning, yeah.
And the church, the pastors led every political movement in this country. This is not weird. We're just getting back to the way it always was. Pastors were the elected officials. Yeah. Elected officials were pastors.
Yeah.
Whether they took time away from giving sermons every Sunday or not, everyone did it their own little way.
Yeah.
But we have to stay connected with the lines of communication that are trustworthy for now.
Yeah.
Michigan Family Forum, Michigan Pray, the House of Prayer. By the way, if anybody wants to get and these are simple emails that you get at least a couple a month. info@michiganpray.com. Sign up.
Yep.
You get on the email. It's real. I'm keeping it super simple because that's all I have time for right now. And actually, we are hiring people to take that over so it can be a lot more rigorous. That's trustworthy, factual information on what's going on in Lansing because it's coming from legislators and pastors who are there.
Yep.
Michigan Family Forum, Citizens for Traditional Values. There's several other groups. Michigan Freedom Network. I mean, we're networking with over 20 partner groups that are trusted, trustworthy. They care about choice in schools. They care about real women's health care. Really caring for women, giving them all their honest, truthful options so they can make really wise decisions. See, the fact that the church lost the abortion topic, it's just glaringly obvious we failed. And we couldn't overcome even parts of the corruption and the deception and the lying and the cheating. We shouldn't be that marginally effective. We should be overwhelmingly effective. We'll get it back, but we're going to have to make a concerted effort to sacrifice time, energy, money to be engaged, involved. And I tell people, this is like dry toast. There's no butter on it. There's no jelly, no peanut butter. It's dry toast. Most people think politics and political meetings are dry toast. They are. It's the most unrewarding community service you're ever going to engage in. And yet, what's at stake is a lot.
Huge. Don't you think that this could very well be part of what Jude was referring to when he told us to earnestly contend for the faith? I see these all being connected to our faith. And Jude didn't even want to come to the brethren with that message in the beginning. I was going to write to you differently, but now I feel led to write to you to contend earnestly for the faith. Literally, we need to fight for these things are worth fighting for. And it is connected to your faith. It is connected to the church. It is connected to the believing community. I think that for years we thought, no, that's separate. That's a separate issue. Don't drag that into the church, until I felt like things were knocking on the church's front door. And I thought, well, I can't bury my head in the sand now. I have to be willing to put myself out there. And I think more and more you're finding leaders. They're running for office now. Pastors that I know running for office now. You're finding more and more Christians very, very actively involved. And I love that. I love it, love it, love it. And even when there was the primary, I had you come and explain what that even was to our congregation. And I thought, oh my gosh, you did a great job. You used the football illustration, which is wonderful to use. I think, Gina, if we can stay plugged in, we can stay educated. I think we can be, we shouldn't be afraid to be politically involved. If we love our community, we want to be politically aware. I don't think our church has to be known for being so political to be influential. And so I think that's what pastors are afraid of. This is going to get away from me here. This is going to be outside of it's knocking on our door, and I don't know what to tell you. It's coming. It's here. And I mean, President Trump is a classic example. I mean, they literally tried to kill him because they couldn't stop him. And
look at the things that he talked about in his first speech were all the basic freedoms of survival, speech. We've lost so much freedom of speech. We've been canceled. Christianity has to be okay again. And the anti-Semitism is just a symptom of a sick culture. If it's a twisted, demonic mindset that comes after Jews, and Christians are always, Jews and Christians get pummeled together. So, and really all we have with Trump is an open door. Not only he has to walk through it, this is a challenge to us in Michigan, the local communities. We have to still work our schools. our counties, our cities, our townships, not out of anger and resentment and fear and assuming they're all against us. Teachers mostly want what's best for kids.
Yep.
Okay. Doctors mostly want what's best for their patients.
Sure.
Every entity, every sphere wants, by and large, healthy, good, quality, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But we've seen so much of it get chipped away. We've seen the deception at the education levels before they become a teacher, before they become a doctor, the brainwash, again, the money circles tend to dictate.
Yeah.
We got to trim that back at the local level. Trump can't do all that for us.
No.
He's going to give us some standing, some backbone.
Yeah.
What he's going to undo is some really bad federal policies that were financially incentivizing horrible policies at the state level. Corrections, prisons, education, the list goes on. That can change from the top down, but we got to do the change here.
Yep.
He's just going to offer the opportunity.
Yep. So what could the church, like every church has like its like info, counters or, where they can put literature out there. What could the church put out there? Like we put out things from, Citizens for Traditional Values and Michigan Pray. And, we can get that information from these institutions. I know that you'll always have literature at Michigan Pray when I've been there. There's always stuff there. How can we do? I think we need to stay educated. I hate how loosely terms like racism and Trump's being called a fascist and all of those. I think that's crazy. He's bringing us back to traditional conservative values, and that's fascism. So how can the church get the word out there, keep people informed? How can we do that, Gina? Do people go online and check these institutions out? These pro-conservative value networks, and or can we just put it out on our counters at the church? How can we do that?
There's so much available that it's not one answer. So, but I'll give you some of it. Pastors need to be educated, and that's part of the mission.
Sure.
Part of the mission. There's like a 5-prong mission with Michigan Pray.
Yeah.
Other than praying.
Yeah.
We want to educate pastors in Michigan. So at least the basics of a biblical economic system versus all the other ones.
Yeah.
How does a healthy family produce a healthy community, produce healthy economics that are sustainable? What's honest, clean energy?
Yeah.
What the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear so many Christians, pastors say, we don't get political in our church. I'm sorry, but that's a complete lie. Because everything you do, turning the lights on, not paying your taxes because you're tax exempt, whatever you're doing here is political.
Sure.
It's affected by politics and you affect politics. So it's a complete lie. And just people make jokes about there's never more politics than in the church.
Yeah. Well, I think
healthy or unhealthy.
I think pastors are scared because we know that we come into the political realm, uneducated and not as informed. But you've got to start, somewhere. You gotta get involved. And I mean, if you have a heart for pro-life agenda, start there. If you want the church to be more involved in the community, but to be informed enough to know what's going on, start there. How often do you have meetings for pastors at Michigan Pray? I know we're welcome all the time, but how often do you have that?
The second Thursday at noon, second Thursday of every month at noon, there's a 2-hour meeting, and it can spill over, but it's 2 hours of solid information, education, and an opportunity to act or get involved in whatever way you want
Okay.
or not. And some just come and learn.
Yep.
And they have to get over the shock of it
Yep.
first in interacting with legislators. Second Thursday of every month, noon at Michigan Pray. We also have the luxury in this great state of Hillsdale College. That is a wealth of top-notch education for free.
Oh, wow.
Online.
Okay.
You can attend seminars online. I'd love for all the pastors in Michigan to at least a couple times a year engage in some of those courses. You don't have to do any papers. You don't have to do any tests. You don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
You just grab the information that is useful to you
Okay.
and run with it. Heritage Foundation.
Yep.
The Heritage Foundation in DC, great Christian conservative think tank.
Yeah.
There's many, many more. Family Research Council.
Yeah. Been around for a long time.
Yes, these are trusted sources of good information.
Okay.
Mackinac Center in Michigan has good conservative, mostly economically motivated to see how it works out with the economics. Trusted. These are trusted sources that I use.
Yep.
So I know whether to go this way with the legislation or that way. At the same time, we as legislators are trying to watch what are the other 49 states doing that's working.
Yep.
Oklahoma's doing a great job of cleaning out their colleges and universities, motivating them in the right direction, truth.
Yeah.
And Arizona has one of the best forms of school choice. They don't call it vouchers, but it's financial. The money follows a child, but in a very creative way. So if it's not even all used up by the time they go to college, they can use for skilled trades or college. We got to learn from that and repeat it here. Yeah. But the more pastors are educated, the more families want to go to that church because they get the information they need anyway.
Yeah.
And a sermon cannot be just about everything around all the big topics, or it's not a relevant church. Right. How do you deal with suicide, depression, anxiety as a church? Charities in the church. And I'm kind of sound a little scattered here, but I want to go back to a couple committee meetings that I had last year. In these committees, they brought up the devastation that the schools now have to pick up and take care of these children, the students. And of course, I always am saying, how many churches are in each community that were represented in testimony?
Yeah.
How many churches are involved in what you're trying to do in the school? Answer always was 0.
Wow.
And it's not because the churches weren't willing, because I know some of these communities.
You bet.
It was because these little government entities are trying to keep the church out.
Yeah.
You know, churches used to run all the charities.
Yeah.
All the charities.
You bet they
all
did.
the hospitals.
Wasn't a welfare system.
No. And when the local community has eyes on this person's truly in need, they get help.
Yeah.
But this person's truly scamming the system.
Yeah.
They don't need help. They need a little kick in the pants.
Yep.
And you got to contribute and help.
Yep.
And you are capable, or you're semi-capable. Let's help you get more capable. In the meantime, we will help you and love you.
Would love that.
And nurture you. The government doesn't nurture anybody.
No.
The church does.
Sure.
The family does.
Yeah.
So it's got to all work in its right lane. Right now, we got the government trying to do everything.
Yeah.
And the school can't do everything.
Right.
The school's doing a terrible job of what they're supposed to do. Reading and math scores in Michigan are 48th in the nation.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And I don't think it's because we have dumb teachers or dumb students.
Not at all.
It's because we're so distracted
Yeah.
by all this other stuff they have to do. And they got to feed them, and they got to clothe them, and they got to do the counseling. They got to pull them out of suicide. They got to get the whole thing. No.
Right.
Teachers and administrators can't be expected to do all that.
Yeah.
Let's allow the church to do what the church does really well.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Let's build the community back up again. That partnership's got to come together again. And that takes people in the government and in the church having the mindset to do it.
Oh, I love it, Gina. Well, why don't you close us out in prayer? And again, now that this is on a podcast, check out all of the organizations that Gina has mentioned, and let 2025 be a year that we're informed, and we're involved. Amen. Gina, would you pray?
Father, thank you for Michigan. Thank you for our great, beautiful, well-resourced state by you. We bless our state. We bless the people here, the marriages, the families, the children represented. We bless our churches. And we bless our government to operate in its proper lane, only in its lane, that it would benefit the people of Michigan. It would exalt you and let you be God and let the church be the church. Thank you, Lord. We have an opportunity to turn things around and please you and do it your way, that we would see all people prosper, be in good health, and enjoy safe pasture in the land. Thank you for Pastor John, this beautiful church, Restore, right in the heart of Ionia. Thank you for all that you are doing here to bring prosperity in the people here, in their souls and in their bodies and finances, etc. Thank you so much, Lord. And we pray it all in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Hey, thanks for joining us, and we will see you at our next podcast. God bless.